add a little bit more of that. And again, I don't want too many harsh kind of brush marks for this background, so again I'll just let it kind of move a bit using the water spray. Okay, now there are also some, some distant trees, so let's make up a fairly cold green. So I'll take the colour I've got there and add a little bit of the yellow. So I've got a green there, but I want it to be a little bit cooler, so added a bit more of the blue. Again, keeping the paper nice and damp, let's add in some trees here. Now in this case I'm not going to deliberately go over the animal. If the watercolour does kind of trickle across the legs here, that's okay. But okay, so that's probably enough for a background green. So let's go back to that yellow and add that back into the green here. And then we've got some bushes and things which are closer, so they're going to be a warmer green. And quite clearly I'm not copying my reference exactly here. It's just about creating a suggestion of a landscape in the background, but again remember this is going to be turned on its side relative to the animal, so I don't want that landscape in the background to be too distracting from the main animal, but at the same time if somebody kind of spots it, I want them to be able to sort of see what it is. Now there's a little bit of warmth in some of the bushes, kind of a reddish brown, orangey brown, so we'll put some of that in as well, just a little patch. And I quite like these little gaps in the wash here, the little bits of white that are just peeking through, so very happy to leave those and not cover them up. And then there's some very, very, very pale grasses, so I'm just going to wash my brush out. And while I was doing that, this little bead of colour here kind of broke away and trickled down through, so I think I'm just going to actually quite like that effect, and it's kind of gathering a little heavily around that line, which I don't want particularly, so I'm just going to tap that bead with the back end of the Sharpie just to let it help it do its own thing. And I've got some pure cad yellow on my palette now, so let's introduce some of that here. I'm just going to actually sweep that upwards now that I think about it, see what that does. And then finally I want a warmer green for the left, for what is currently the bottom of the painting. So coming back in with that yellow, a little touch of the cobalt blue. Let's get a little bit more of that. Keep the bottom of the painting nice and damp. Again, I'm going to work up from the bottom of the frame. Let's get a little bit more blue in there. Perhaps we'll actually mix it on the, there we go. It's going to be mostly yellow rather than a green, but never, oh, that's a bit more greeny over there. It's working a bit better. And again, I'm going right across the drawing here because the main thing I want is colour coming right up to the edge of the drawing for the most part. And then, as I say, I'm going to come over with some darker pigments for the animals. Now I'm very happy with the way the sky is behaving. I like what's going on here and here. I might just add a little touch of, so this is my oval wash brush here, which I used for the first time the other week on the channel. So what I'm going to do is just see what happens if I take a little bit of pure magenta and just, I quite like what's happening there, so I'm not going to change that, but I'm just going to put a couple of little touches here and there on the lower part of the painting. Just a little touch with the water, and I'm going to let that dry and do its own thing now. You know, so we'll see what happens. Well, the background is pretty much dry now, so I'm going to start to work on the animals. And my plan in the first stages is to put a highlight wash on the two animals and then block in a shadow wash while that's still fairly damp. My hope being that that might create some, you know, some nice blooming effects within the watercolor. So it's going to be like a little bit of a stylized depiction of these two animals. So I've switched to my big round mop brush. Got some cobalt blue. Let's grab a little bit of the magenta. Let's get a bit more paint in this central well. A bit more of that magenta. There we go. And now I need to try and control this wash a little better than before, because you know, I want to keep things fairly well defined in terms of the animal's silhouette. But that said, you know, we'll see what happens. So as you can see, what I'm doing at the moment is simply filling in the silhouette I've got, trusting my drawing. I'm not really checking my reference at all at the moment. Just kind of made a decision that this will be the highlight color. So let's now where this where I end up over painting some of the existing background color, which is wandered to within the drawing, I'm going to get some kind of greens mixed in and all sorts of different colors, and that's fine. That's fine. I don't mind at all. Now let's need a bit more paint, I think. Let's just wet the surface of the animals a touch as well, just to get a much more characterful wash, much more textured wash if you paint onto a wet surface. Now that may not be what you want, of course, but for me today it very much is. So as I do with my acrylic paintings, I'm just, you know, putting a few curved brush strokes in here to help make the torso of the animal look a little more 3D. Even at this early stage, it's worth doing that. Then we can move across to the other guy. And just to mix things up a little bit, I've